Hi, I'm Ellen Violette. I'm the founder of Books Open Doors. I'm an award-winning book strategist and coach and the creator of the 5-day bestseller breakthrough challenge. And the best advice I ever got is create a lifestyle and design a business around it. I just wish I'd gotten that advice a lot sooner.
Ooh, I love that. So who gave you that advice, Ellen?
Boy, I don't even know. I think I've heard it a few different places. I'm not
That's
sure.
awesome. That's great advice. So a lifestyle, right? So how we want to live, how we want to work, how we want to be. Why how is being a writer, being an author, being a book strategist, how has that been incorporated into your lifestyle?
To be honest, I wish it was incorporated more, but I spend more time being a coach than I spend being a writer at this point. However, I realized the last book I wrote was actually in 2019. I've written 9 books now. And so that's about one every 2 years, just about. And I want to do more, and I have some specific ideas that I want to work on. And so what I realized was that a few things have happened. As I've gotten older, I don't sleep as late, so I'm up earlier. I'm going to bed earlier. I had to give up my Stephen Colbert, who I love, but I've been trying to get to bed by 11. And so since I'm up earlier, I've been making that a priority to write first and stop making things that are urgent first as opposed to things that are important to me and to my lifestyle.
Ooh, that's great advice. So
Yeah.
writing first. So are you doing morning pages or are you actually doing something else? Tell me
No,
about
I'm
that
not
writing
doing morning
pattern.
pages right now because I have specific ideas and books that I'm working on. Yeah,
Gotcha.
if I didn't have something specific, then I would be doing morning pages. And for people who don't know what morning pages are, um, that's from The Artist's Way, Julie Cameron. And it's the idea that you should be writing every day, even if you just get up and write 3 pages of whatever comes into your mind.
Yeah, good. So I'm glad to hear that because I hear a lot of advice that says I should write my morning pages and my structured stuff, and I actually like that I can write. I can kind of pick one or the other because I struggle with that. When I'm in flow, I want to be in flow. I want to stay there. I want to write. So I'm happy to hear that. So how did you first get the writing bug though? Was it an English teacher or did you read a book that really sucked and you're like, hey, I can do better than this, or what?
I think it's a combination of things. For one thing, it's in my DNA. My grandmother was an English teacher. My mother was the editor of the magazine, or what is it, the school newspaper. My grandfather was the night editor of the LA Examiner. So, yeah, so that, and my niece now is a poet. So it's in the genes. As far as environment, my mom read to me as a kid, and she was not a very warm person. I love her to pieces, but she was not a warm person. But that was one of the things that we did that was very bonding. I almost get choked up when I even say it. And and I remember her reading Nancy Drew books to me. Yeah, and when I was a little older, and then I could do it myself. But even Dick and Jane, whatever. I just remember. I don't even remember what we read exactly. I just remember being read to. And I started keeping journals when I was about 11. And so from 11 on, I was always writing something.
Wow, that's cool. That's a really cool history. So from 11 on, writing something. That's fantastic. So what was your first book? Was it nonfiction or fiction or
No,
poetry or what?
the story of my first book was that I actually almost died 20 years ago. I got very sick and I started losing weight, and nothing was agreeing with me. I couldn't eat. And Western medicine couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And so, but we could see that I was fading away. And my husband got online and he did some research, and he really made it his mission. He really saved my life. And he found this doctor, and she was describing what I had gone through, or what I was going through, just to a T. And it turned out I had environmental illness. And environmental illness is just when your body becomes so toxic that everything makes you sick. And so I couldn't keep down food. Chemicals made me sick. Fragrances made me sick, everything. And so I wanted to become a patient of hers. And the problem was that she was no longer seeing patients. And so I was very lucky that she had written a book. And that book was called Detox or Die. And we followed the book, and I got better. And at that point, I had said to myself, I'd always wanted to write a book, but then that happened, and it was like, well, damn, I may have never gotten to write a book. And so that was really the wake-up call of, I better do the things that I want to do. And so at that point, I didn't even have a business. I'd been in the music business for 20 years. I'm a Grammy-nominated songwriter, and I had a world-class studio in the house that I grew up in. But the Northridge earthquake really damaged our house, and our street looked like a war zone. And then we had a lawsuit against the insurance company because they weren't paying. And my parents both then passed away within 11 months of each other. And I got enough money to fix the house, but I ended up having to sell it. And so I lost not only my parents, my house, and my living.
Wow.
And so, yeah. And so, but we made quite a bit of money on the house, and that gave us, a nest egg, but we didn't know what we were going to do. We came down to San Diego from Los Angeles, and my husband was a hypnotherapist, but there was like one on every corner. And I tried to stay in the music business, and it was just not working out. And so we started buying, fixing, and selling houses and flipping them. And it was right into as the market was going up in the 90s, and we were doing really well doing that, but it was pretty stressful. We were moving like every 6 months. But in doing that, I created my own system for moving. And so my first book was about moving. It's called Help This Move Is Driving Me Crazy. That was not the original title. But, I made all the mistakes that most new authors make. I mean, I put too much time and energy into it. I spent too much money. It took too long. At that point, well, what happened was I actually got online, and I was looking around to see how I was going to become a writer. Like, I didn't know, what the process was. And I found a New York Times bestselling author and signed up for a consultation with him. And I said, am I crazy to think I can do this? And I laugh at that now. I was like in my early 50s, and I thought I was too old. And so he said, I don't know, you're really a good writer. You just have to start sending stuff out on spec. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I did that for 20 years in the music business. It really sucks because you're totally at the mercy of other people. And I also didn't want to do a book proposal because I had no idea how to do one, and it scared the hell out of me. So so I'm going, well, what are my options? So I'm looking around on the internet, and I found ebooks. I went, oh my God, there's a way where you can do this yourself, and you don't need anybody's permission, and you can get directly to your audience. This sounds amazing. And so that's what I decided I was going to do. And there weren't any people really coaching on that, doing it online. It was 2004. And so I just ended up, at that point, we were starting to look into learning internet marketing because we realized that was part of the deal. And so we started going to seminars and things and meeting people. And the big thing right back then was called the Big Seminar with Armin Morin. And so we went to that a couple times. And once I found ebooks, I was like, oh, I'm sure there'll be a coach there, somebody who can help me. And there wasn't. And then I thought, this is crazy. And I hired somebody to help me, but they don't have a system, and it's expensive, and it's taking forever. And I'm starting to get really bored with this because I'm not really excited about moving. And then I was taking a publicity course, and the guy was saying, oh, you should become the moving doctor. And I was like, shoot me. I do not want to be the moving doctor. I don't know where I'm going, but that ain't it. It just kind of came to me. It was like, I know I can do this better, and this is like a perfect fit for me. I'm going to figure out a better system, and then that's what I'm going to teach people. So that's what I did.
That's great. So there's a gap in the market. There wasn't something there. You decided that you could come up with a system, and you created a system, and now you coach that. That's great. But you said it takes too long to write a book. So with you, Ellen, how long does it take? Like, what are we talking here? 3 months, 9 months, 2 years? What?
It really depends. It really depends on the person. But I created a workshop that's called Write Your Bestseller in 7 Days boot camp. And so they get everything that they need in that 7 days and time to write the book. And if they follow the process that I teach them, you can write a book. This book of mine is called 21 Simple Strategies to Jumpstart Your Book Marketing Online. I wrote this book in 3 days. Not every book can be written in 3 days because some just need more time to percolate. Sometimes people aren't ready, but I've had people come into my workshop and have their books up online selling the day after the workshop. I've also had people who took years to do it because they're just not in the right space to do it. So you can only, as they say, lead the horse to water. You can't make them drink, right?
Yeah.
So there is a process to do this. It's then whether you're willing to do it and able to do it. So everybody's different. But if you already have a business, if you already solve a problem, it should not take you months and years to write a book because you already have the content.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. So we already got a business, already have the content, just get writing. So what you said get in the right space though. What does that mean? Like, are you talking head space, or I got to move to the mountains, or what do you mean?
Mindset. Mindset. It's like if your mind's telling you, oh, I can't do this. Oh, it's too hard. Oh, I'm too busy. All the objections, then you're not going to be able to do it. If you come into it, when I look back, when I wrote my not the first book, because again, that was about moving and I wasn't passionate about that. And I didn't know why I was writing it really, whatever. But when I started writing books about book writing, then it was a whole different story. I was totally into it. And I remember writing my first book and I was like, I can do this, and so I did it. And I can look back now and say, oh God, it's embarrassing. But that's the whole point, is like, you should look back and go, it's embarrassing, because hopefully you're growing. If you're not growing, that's a problem. But the 80-20 rule is really important. It's like when it's 80% done, like just put it out. I can't tell you how many clients I've had, or people, not so much clients, but people that I've talked to who were thinking about being clients. And they come to me and they say, oh, I've written 4 books and I've never published any of them. Why? Why would you keep writing books if you haven't published any of them? I don't know. What it is, they're uncomfortable. They're afraid of rejection. They're afraid of failure. And some of them are afraid of success. So, or the unknown.
Interesting. So when it's 80% done, put it out there and publish your book, which I think is...
Well, not just publish. First get feedback. It's like,
okay.
The problem is we're our worst enemies. And so we're judging and we want it to be perfect. And then you get into the writing, rewriting, and never putting it out. So that's why you need to do the best you can. And then you need to put it out, get feedback, and then take in that feedback and go, okay. And it also matters who you get feedback for. It's like there are people who will give you feedback who don't know what the hell they're talking about, Yeah. And so you got to be careful who you're asking for advice. And there have been times where I've asked for advice, like on a title or a book cover, and people are just all over the map. And then it's like you've got to just kind of rein it in, listen to your intuition. Whatever. Work with somebody like me who kind of knows what they're doing, who has a better perspective than just asking anybody. But I've seen that so many times where people get into the perfection thing. I've had clients where you're getting ready to publish it, and they like finding this little thing and that little thing, and they just keep doing that. And you have to say to them, look, 80-20, it's like, are you going to put this book out, or are you going to spend the next 6 months or a year just nitpicking at it? And I really had to get to the point of putting my foot down and saying, no, we will do this many passes and that's it. We're done. Because some people will just go on and on and on.
Wow. Well, that's good advice on how to get the book written. But let's talk about the why. The thing that I would love to hear is, so why? Why should speakers, coaches, and entrepreneurs, why should they write a book?
They should write a book because books open doors. That's the point. The point is that when you write a book, number one, it makes you an authority. 81% of people want to write a book. Less than 1 or 2% ever will. And the word author comes from the word authority, it's in the word authority. There's a reason. And when you write a book, you actually become more of an authority because you delve into it at a deeper level than other people are doing it. So that's also a positive. And you get clearer on your message. And then the things that come out of it. I mean, it gives you more credibility. It gives you expert status. And I mean, my clients have had amazing things happen to them after writing their book. I had one client who wanted to get on stage and he just wasn't getting asked to get on stage, and he wrote the book, and in less than 2 months he was on his first stage. I recently heard a story about a woman who was a psychiatrist. She wanted to get on TV, and she was an expert at what she did, and she couldn't get on because she didn't have a book. So that's important. I have another client who ended up on stage right before Barack Obama at a conference. I have another client who he decided, he created his vision that he wanted to get to know and work with Kevin Harrington. And Kevin was doing a conference. And so he went to the conference and he carried his book under his arm. And Kevin saw the book, loved it, invited him up on stage, and they took all the air out of the room by talking about his book for like 45 minutes. And Kevin ended up mentoring him. And he then got an opportunity to speak on stage, all expenses paid, in Singapore. And he works with companies, and he's making more money now. His book was on the bestseller list for about 3 years once we got it up there. Yeah, we made it a #1 bestseller, and it just stayed there. So, so there's all kinds of things that happen for people. I had another woman, she sold 4,000 books her first weekend, and she attributed it to the title, which I wrote for her. So, lots of great things happen when you write a book.
Wow, that is a lot of great things. So the title, so talk to me about that. Should the title be SEO rich? Should the title be catchy or kitschy? I mean, how do we pick a good title?
There are a lot of things that go into a good title, and it's so funny because I can talk about titles for hours and some people just can't do it because I don't know why. Their brain just thinks in sentences rather than in titles. But the thing about a title is, it can be catchy. What you have to understand is there's a title and a subtitle, and they work together. So the subtitle has to tell you the benefit of what's in the book. The title can do that, but it also doesn't have to. I mean, or you can have a title that's a little obscure or cute or something, and then it's explained by the subtitle. And other times the title says it. I mean, talk so kids will listen, listen so kids will talk. I mean, that's a great title because it's inverted and it says what you want to say, and yet it's very clever. A title like Blink, I wouldn't know what Blink meant if I didn't have the subtitle with it. So every title is different, but the bottom line of a title is it has to capture your audience's attention in one way or another. That's really the bottom line. And it has to be memorable, because if they hear you on a podcast, they see you on a show like this, and they're driving or they're sitting on the beach or whatever they're doing, and they can't remember it, that's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great reminder. Be memorable with that title. So do you recommend that people Google search it or trademark search it? I mean, I know that you can't technically trademark a title.
Right, you can't trademark a title. No, I don't worry about that. What I would tell people to do is go into Amazon and see if there's another book with the title, because if there's another book with the title, I will not use it, and I will advise my clients not to use it. And sometimes that's a problem because they've been thinking about it for so long and they're so set on that title. But the problem is that causes confusion. It may be hard or impossible to get the domain name. So, you're doing all this marketing and maybe you're sending people to somebody else's website, especially if they've got the .com and you're doing .net or something else. I always suggest get a .com. And if you need to rethink your title, great, because you'll have to be more creative. And in the long run, that's a good thing.
Okay. So do you recommend then that we add like book after it if the .com isn't available, if it's like somebody else's business?
No. Don't use it. Don't use it.
Cool. So
I mean, that's my take. I mean, somebody else may disagree with me, but that's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
But, my background is completely creative. I mean, I'm always of the mind that you can always come up with something more creative, something better. I mean, being in the music business for 20 years, you really learn that, especially if you're good at it, that having a structure that's so tight forces you. It makes you have to be more creative. And so for me to be more creative with titles is not a big deal for me. That's what I've been doing all my adult life. Is
No,
pushing the boundaries of creativity.
I like that. I mean, I totally agree. I think that, it is important to be as creative as possible. I'd also, what do you think about some of these titles that are spelled weird? Like Flickr used to be a big one, or these ones with Z's and other stuff like that. What do you think about that?
I think it's harder for people to find you.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people do it because the other one is taken and they're lazy and they don't work at coming up with a better title.
Yeah. I can absolutely see that. Absolutely see that. So, you talk about a bestseller. So what constitutes a bestseller for you?
A bestseller is a book that sells. I mean, that's a bestseller.
Like, is there a number, or is it the Amazon, then when you hit number one, or what does that mean?
Yeah, well, there's Amazon bestseller, there's USA Today, there's New York Times. I mean, it really, how big your bestseller can be depends on how many books you can sell. So if you can only do Amazon, then do it. If you can do better, do that. But it takes time. I mean, you have to build relationships, or you have to have a big budget, or both. You have to be able to get that visibility in order to sell enough books. Also, people don't think about bundles of books. I helped one author. We sold 6,000 books doing a crowdfunding, and what we realized very quickly is, they had a time limit on it. It was 30 days. Well, you're not going to sell thousands of books in 30 days if you're selling books one at a time. So we created book bundles. We created bonuses. We created incentives for people to buy a lot of books at a time.
I agree. The bulk purchase, I mean, it's just as hard to sell one as it is to sell 100 in a lot of cases. So finding those buyers that want to buy multiple copies is super important. So who is that? Is that corporations, associations, or there?
It depends on what your topic is. I mean, sometimes it's schools, sometimes it's government, sometimes it's corporations, sometimes it's coaches who, have a big practice. You just, it depends on what your topic is.
Okay. Are there any topics that are bad, or can any topic be good for your book? Like, as far as sales go, I mean, not as far as like actually writing a good book.
I don't know if there are any that are bad. I mean, mostly you want to stay away from things like pornography and things that are like illegal, but
yeah, don't write an illegal book, especially if you're a speaker, a coach,
entrepreneur,
right? So
or even to get it on social media.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, no, that's a good point, right? Anything that'll get you banned is probably not good to write. Although I've seen some authors that write things that purposely get banned to use that as publicity as well. So so all the rules may or may not apply, right?
Exactly.
So, fun. So Ellen, you've got this awesome bestseller breakthrough campaign that you put together, this 5-day challenge. So talk to us about the bestseller breakthrough challenge and why you started and who it's for.
Oh, great question. Well, the reason I started it was because when COVID hit, a lot of people were doing challenges and 3-day virtual events. And it was so interesting because I had actually started in January of 2020, deciding this was the year I was going to really up-level my skills. And so I was already in learning mode. And so I went to several of them. And I mean, over the years, I've been to, many master classes. I'd also been through, one of the things that I went through was product launch formula. And Jeff's process is more master class. And to me, what I saw in those two different things was that one is more theory and the other is more rolling up your sleeves and doing it. And I found that I got more out of rolling up my sleeves and doing it. And so I really liked that process. And then I also realized that my strength is teaching other people. And so I just thought that doing a challenge would be the best way for me to help people start to write a book. And also because people are sometimes afraid of it, I wanted to show them that it's easy when you have the right steps and when you know how to do it. So that was why I did it that way.
Cool. I like that. I like practical, tactical stuff. Mm-hmm. Really easy, helpful stuff. Folks, if you're listening, you can get that at bestsellerbreakthrough.com and get signed up, completely free challenge with Ellen.
Yeah, what I do in there is I take people from finding their topic to creating their outline. And so it's a 5-step system. It's the same system I use with all my clients, all my students, and all my clients that we've done bestseller launches with are #1 bestsellers. So it works. And what it also does is it helps people avoid some of the common pitfalls and some of the, in my opinion, common practices that are bad for authors. There are things that people teach that I think just makes it a lot harder. Or for instance, like yesterday, I was just talking to one of my clients who is coming into the challenge. And, she was saying, oh God, I have all these little bits of pieces of paper all over the place and now I don't know what to do with it. That's one of my points. It's like we get ourselves overwhelmed because we don't have the process to do it the right way.
Awesome. So a simple process that we can go through, 5 simple steps with Bestseller Breakthrough. Really, really solid stuff there. I see there's, it's easy to sign up. You're not asking for a lot of information there. So when does the challenge take place? If folks are listening to this today, how long do they have? And are you going to run it again this year?
Yeah, it's actually starting later today. We start at noon Pacific time today, and it goes all week. And, if you're seeing this tomorrow, the next day, it's not too late. It will be up through the weekend. And so I really want to encourage people not to be put off if they don't get in right at the beginning. As far as when I'm doing it again, that hasn't been totally decided yet. It'll be either later this year or the beginning of the year. I know people at the beginning of the year are always like, okay, it's a new year. I'm going to make a new resolution. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, and if you're coming and you're hearing this after this week, don't worry about it. Sign up anyway, because you'll be on the waiting list for the next one.
There you go. Great. Yeah. So go to bestsellerbreakthrough.com. Check that out. So Ellen, last words for you here. If folks are looking to get started, obviously they should sign up for Bestseller Breakthrough, but if you're giving advice to someone and you're like, hey, this is the best place to start writing your book, getting started with this, what would you tell them to do?
Well, can I back up a minute? There's something I want to say, because somebody asked me this the other day, and I thought it was a really great question. They said, when is the best time to write your book? And I said, now, regardless of where you're at. I wrote my book right when I was starting my business. I've also written 8 more. So I've been writing them throughout my career. So it's not like there's one best time to write your book. The best time is to write it now. The reason I say that, and I love this story, I was recently reading The One Thing by Gary Keller, Keller Williams Realty, which is a multi-million-dollar real estate company. And he wasn't being taken seriously by the top people in his industry. And he went to his team and he said, give me 100 ideas of what we should do to break into the top tier. And they gave him 100 ideas. And he said, okay, let's whittle it down to the top 10. And so they whittled it down to the top 10. They said, okay, what's the one thing that we can do that's going to change everything? And they said, write a book. And he did, and it did change everything. And he sold millions of copies of that book. Now, I'm not saying that you will sell millions of copies of your book, but I am saying that writing a book is life-changing and it's very powerful and you should do it. So that's that. Now, what was the other question?
Well, so getting started.
Oh,
now
getting
that we've
started.
Decided that we're going to write our book now. What would be the best way to get started besides obviously signing up for your Bestseller Breakthrough?
Well, it is that process, and I'll tell you quickly what it is. It's number one is you have to know your why, what you're passionate about, what your skill set is, and what your goal is for the book. And then you have to know who your ideal audience is. Who are you writing this book for? I worked with a cardiologist and he'd written this book and it was a mess. And he came to me to fix the book. And I'm like, well, the problem with the book is you have three different audiences you're trying to write, and they're three different books. So he had one book that was his life story, which was fascinating. Then he had another story that was for his patients. And then he had another, well, not a story, but a book. And then he had another book that was for up and coming cardiologists. Three different books. So that book was never going to work. So you have to know who your audience is. And then you have to know what are their problems, what do they want solved and what are they going to be willing to pay for? And I go a lot more into that. And then how to position your book. That's important so that people can find it. And that really gets into, what are your keywords? What are your categories, your title, your subtitle, and what else is in the marketplace and how are you different? And then the last piece is writing your outline. And it's really very simple when you understand how to do it. People really overcomplicate it or they don't do it at all. And that's the worst thing you can do because you need a blueprint. You need to know where you're going or you're never going to get there. And so people run off the page and then they're going, oh God, I got myself over here. Now, how do I get back? And they don't know how to get back. So that's it. I mean, that's how you get started. And that's what we're going to go deeper in the challenge.
Awesome. So knowing your why, know your who, know the problems, know how to position your book, and then get started and
Yep.
write your outline.
Yep.
Ellen, super, super helpful. I know if folks want to get more from you, Ellen Violette, you can go to booksopendoors.com. But is there a place on social media that you like to send people where they can maybe ask some questions or offer some feedback or anything at all?
Yeah, I mean, they can find me on LinkedIn at LinkedIn.com. What is it? /IN/Ellen Violette. They can find me on Facebook. I'm just about out of friend room. And I'm not really great on the business page, but I do have a group, and that's really where I am every day. And that is facebook.com/groups/Books Open Doors.
Awesome. Awesome. So they can connect with you on LinkedIn, check out your Facebook group or lots of other places. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't remind folks, sign up for the Bestseller Breakthrough. Go to bestsellerbreakthrough.com, learn Ellen's 5 steps, and go deeper. Know your why, know your who, know the problems, position that book, and get writing your outline. Because speakers, coaches, entrepreneurs, if you're listening, get writing your book. Ellen, thanks so much for being with me today. I really appreciate the time and the awesome insights. So actionable and so helpful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.